New braids. Who this? Yo, I'm like surrounded by mosquitoes out here. Maybe I should just go back inside the car do this. Looks like a cloud of them freaks flying around. Okay, nope, don't get near me. I'm gone. I'm gone. Forget this. You know, there's a lot of suffering going on in our world today. I mean, we have the COVID going on, we have poverty, we have wildfires, so many deaths of people. It's just been a really crazy year, and there's always just been suffering in life, has there? We've all just had bad moments. I was almost starting to suffer out there because the mosquitoes were about to eat me alive. For some reason, I don't know why, mosquitoes just love to bite me. Like, I'm just like a juicy steak to them. I don't understand it. Fleas, too, when I once had them as a kid, they loved me, but they avoided my mom. Like, why? Why? Anyways, we just really do have a lot of suffering, though. And it makes you wonder sometimes, well, I'm pretty sure we all had some point in our life where we just wonder, why does God allow the suffering? Maybe you're thinking those thoughts right now. And sometimes I just wonder also, what should we even do about the suffering? Is the suffering like a sign of God's wrath? Like, what is all this? So I was just going to talk about it today because I just felt like talking about it. It's been a crazy year so far, so why not talk about some suffering? So, yep. So first, let's understand why there even is suffering in the world in the first place. Is it God's wrath? Like, every time we suffer in life, does that mean it's God's wrath pouring down and punishing on us? But I just want to say that it isn't. Like, if you suffer in this world, it does not mean that God is punishing you. Like, let's just get that clear. We live in just a world full of suffering and troubles, and it's just really part of the world that we live in. It's been like that ever since Adam and Eve slipped up. Ever since they did what they go away mosquito. You're not welcome here. But yeah, it's just always been a part of our world. And it's just because of the sin in the world. Because since Adam and Eve, the world has been cursed. So many things went wrong then. Like, childbirth got worse. Things just got harder and difficult. Like, doing tasks and stuff just got harder. And suffering now been a thing in the world. Natural disasters. So yeah, that's why we have suffering in the world. I mean, in some cases it could be God's punishment, but don't think that if you're suffering for something, don't instantly assume that's God's suffering. Like, don't instantly assume that. Like, maybe really think about it and look at all those mosquitoes. And, you know, another thing people may wonder is, why do good people suffer in this world? Like, why do some of the good people that we have in our world today, why are they suffering? Well, maybe this is worth clarifying that there really is no good people in the world. We all have our problems. We all mess up and do bad things every now and then. But it just, all people suffer sometimes, whether they're good or bad. Like, they're in the Bible, there's also Job. There's a whole book on it too about this guy. He had suffered in life, went through so many problems. His problems were linked to the devil himself causing. That's another thing. Maybe it's Satan or some of his demons causing bad things. Like, that'll happen. That's what happened to Job. Lost his children, his home, his riches. Wait, did he lose his home? He lost basically his children, riches, and his possessions. And he was just really low on life. So many times he just wanted to die. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us have been at some point in our lives. So yeah, there's a whole book in the Bible about that, about Job suffering. That's worth a read too if you're interested in about how suffering may happen sometimes. Satan just really, really did a huge damage on Job's life. So, I mean, even Jesus suffered. The religious leaders, the Jews and some of the religious leaders, they wanted to kill Jesus. They wanted to kill him. And they got him arrested, and then the Romans took him and crucified him. And the crucifixion is just a whole messed up process. They strip you naked, they beat you and whip you, they spit on you, they try to humiliate you. And they did all those things to him just because they did not like him. They didn't like the things he said, the things he taught. So they decided, you know what? Let's just get him crucified. And he was speaking the truth. Like, we're talking about God incarnate right now. They decided to take him and do all those bad things to him. And Jesus did not deserve it in the slightest. But the reason he went through with it was to save us from our sins. Put your faith in Jesus. Also, if you want to know what it means to put your faith in Jesus, it means trusting him as salvation from sins, from our punishment from it. So just a little side note. So like, yeah, even Jesus suffered. So, and we're talking about God incarnate, a person who never sinned or did anything bad in their life. They had to suffer, and Jesus shares in our suffering. God shares in our sufferings, and there's just a lot of bad things. I mean, God doesn't enjoy sending people away from him. He doesn't like separating himself from others, but he has to when they don't turn to him. And so I'm pretty sure that's a big heartache right there. And God, I'm not pretty sure. I know it's just a big heartache. Like, imagine your creation that you love so much and you really want to help be with them. They make their choice to turn from you and even do the things that they did to Jesus. And you're just being fair, a righteous judge, and you have to turn yourself away from him. Like, there's verses about it too. God does not enjoy the death of evil people, like the wicked. He does not. So that's another thing worth remembering. So what about the suffering? Like, what is there any other good side to it? And I'm gonna say something that, and it may sound very, very crazy, but you should rejoice in your sufferings. Like, a lot of good things can come out of suffering. It can produce your character. Like, there's even there's verses on it. There's James chapter 1 verse 2 to 4. That's one. Romans 5 verse 3 to 5. They all talk about how the suffering that we have to do builds character. There are so many verses about suffering, about how we have to deal with it and how it can be a good thing and it's part of God's will. Like, there's so much about suffering, and I can list many verses. So rejoice in suffering, because it can really be a good thing in our lives, and it can really build our character, strengthen our faith, and there's many other good things about suffering, but yeah, and it's also really important to really trust God in our suffering. You may question God or wonder why he's allowing this to happen, but you really have to trust that God is knowing what he's doing and really just wants the best for you. You really have to trust and believe it, because it is true. I know the suffering may be really bad, and I know the suffering may make you wonder, is God even there? I've been there. Trust me, I have been there. I've been there wondering, like, why? Why is this happening? But trust me, God really does love you and really does care about you. And he's with us in our sufferings. Like, God really cares about us in our suffering. I'll even read you a verse that Jesus said in John 16 verse 33. Basically, here's what Jesus had said. I have told you these things that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have tribulation, but cheer up. I have overcome the world. Jesus overcame the world, and God, if you're a Christian, God uses our suffering for good. All things work together for good. Romans chapter 8 verse 28. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God. God works our suffering for our benefit. He uses them for our benefits. There are good things about the suffering, and it may be hard and it may take some time to get used to, but really you can just thank God for the suffering, because you know that God is doing it, looking out for the best in us, looking out for the best for us, and he just really loves and cares about us, and he understands our suffering. God knows our suffering, and he can relate to our suffering. And our suffering is not forever, okay? Our suffering is not going to last forever. Remember that. I'll read you something in one of the last few chapters of the Bible. So the last thing that God has told us about the future events. In Revelation 21 verse 4, God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more, neither will there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore. The first things have passed away. Our suffering isn't forever. God understands our suffering and has compassion on us, and he really does love us, care about us in our suffering, and he will use our suffering for good. So please remember this. Hope you have a great day, and hold fast, trust God, and know that he really loves and cares about you. I'll see you next time.